just waiting. We're just waiting. We're just waiting. Yeah, we're just waiting. We're just waiting. We're just waiting. Sitting here just waiting. We're just waiting. We're just waiting. We're just waiting. Yeah, we're just waiting. We're just waiting. We're just waiting. We're just waiting. Yeah, we're just waiting. We're just waiting. We're just waiting. Yeah, we're just waiting. We're just waiting. We're just waiting. Thanks for coming. Yeah. We're just waiting. We're just waiting. Yeah, we're just waiting. We're just waiting. We're just waiting. We're just waiting. Yeah, we're just waiting. 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 We're just waiting.
Buddy. Hi, guys. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. We're so excited to get started. My name's Marissa. My pronouns are she, her.
My name is Emily. Whoop. Is this working? Can you hear me? It is quiet. I'm just going to talk really loud. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, Pat. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. My name is Emily. I use she, her pronouns, and we are so excited to have so many people here today. We were talking about how heavy things have been feeling, and I'm sure every single person in this room has been on the same page, and so we are really excited to have two incredible people that are bringing positive change to local government, and so I'm hoping everybody feels really inspired.
They're cracking jokes already over our shoulders, so we're off to a really good start. It's all right. We're going to keep this ship on the rails, train on the rails.
Oh my gosh. If you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Hey, let's sit down.
Let's sit. Crystal, would you like to start? Since you picked up the mic.
Sure.
Oh.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Crystal Paradis-Catanzaro. Pronouns are she, her. I am a city councilor
Do we need
in
to turn it up a little
Somersworth, New Hampshire. Just started my third term as city councilor in Somersworth, New Hampshire. New Hampshire's Rainbow City.
I voted for you.
Nice.
I voted for you.
This could have gotten really awkward really fast, honestly.
My name is Billie Butler. My pronouns are radical left scum. But you can call me her, she, if you'd like. Hershey.
Hershey.
She, her. She, her. I reside in Somersworth. I'm a state rep for Somersworth and Rollinsford. And I'm in a band called Bitter Pill. And we play here once in a while.
Woo.
And yeah, I think that's it.
Woo. A couple of quick housekeeping notes before we get started. Feel free to get up during the show, get a bevy. All right, we're here. Get a beverage, tip your bartender, okay? Get comfortable, climb over our friends to squeeze into the middle seats if you want. We're all friends here. We're all cozy. This is, Auspicious is raising money to get even bigger. So if you want to fund the expansion, donate to the GoFundMe. And then, yeah, we're going to talk for right around an hour. We're going to try to open up the floor for some questions towards the end. If you've got questions for our incredible panelists, keep them on top of mind. And bathroom code is 2100. Don't forget it. So thank you guys so much for being here. I know it's can be a lot getting out of the house sometimes, just being a human being, but it's nice to be in a room with so many people who have this kind of energy. So I really appreciate y'all being here. All right, want to kick us off?
I would love to kick us off. So we'd love to just kind of hear a little bit more about your backgrounds, how you got started in local politics. Do you want to start, Billie?
Sure. This one is responsible for me running for state rep. Well, one of the few, But Crystal definitely was like, Billie, hey, what are you doing? We need a state rep. I won a special election last June against a free stater and carpetbagger from Texas who moved here about 10 years ago. I won by 11% of the vote.
Woo!
It was incredible. My campaign manager and best friend in the world, Lindsay over here, helped me win.
Woo, Lindsay!
You're
Shout
in the
out to
wrong
the campaign
business,
manager.
Lindsay. I had threatened for a while when I moved to Somersworth. I'm like, I'm going to run for mayor. And it was, you know, a lot. It was tongue-in-cheek, really. But I wanted to do something. I've always been an advocate. I've always been very loud politically, especially in my music and my writing. It's always come from a kind of a punk rock aesthetic. I used to be one of those little punk rock queer kids in Market Square back in the 80s, fighting the fascists, fighting the skinheads, literally, in Market Square. In fact, look at my nose. I got it broken when I was 19. You see it kind of curves to the left a little bit. I was all of, 5'6", 100 pounds soaking wet, 19 years old, got my ass kicked. My mouth was bigger than my muscles, that's for sure. But it's funny, I didn't think that I had the capability or the brains, or I still don't know if I have the brains, but I didn't think I had the capability. I didn't think that I was good enough to run for anything. Because, you know, I don't know about we, but I always put these leaders on a shelf, you know. I always thought they're unreachable to me. And the reality is they're very reachable. And, you know, I think about all the stupid people that I know in the world, personally. And, you know, a lot of these politicians are stupider than that.
Really paints a picture.
I mean, it does. You know, I'm obviously being a little satirical here, but that's the reality. They're just as dumb as the rest of us. And it really comes down to, there you go.
That's love, baby.
That's what I'm talking about.
They
It really
wanted to,
comes
they
down
would.
to, you know, I know this word is used a lot, empathy, kindness, thoughtfulness, and caring about your community. And we live in such a small state that I was like, you know, can I swear? Is that?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
It's encouraged.
Fucking thank God. I thought, fuck it, you know, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And be careful what you wish for, because we did it. We did it, Lance. She's over there grading papers right now.
You're a hero.
She's so mad at me right now.
Sorry, nobody looked.
She really is a hero. So that's kind of the short long of it, yeah.
Thank you. Crystal, what about you? How did you get started in the local politics?
Yeah, I never ever also thought that I would. I mean, it wasn't even a thought like, oh, I'll probably never do that. I didn't even know how or who or whoever, whenever, or why ever. Just no concept at all. Grew up very in a very conservative family, but a very non-politically engaged or aware family. At least that was my experience. And it wasn't until I was in my mid-20s working at like my first office job, and I was asked to fax a piece of testimony to the State House to say, please support or don't support a certain bill. And I was like, first of all, who uses faxes? And also, this wasn't that long ago. And also, like, you're sending this to, like, politicians. Like, don't they all know what they're going to do already? Like, what's the point? And my very patient boss at the time explained that not a whole lot of people write in. And so they really do value when people write in, and they take that as, you know, my grandmother used to write letters to companies, and she's like, every letter they assume is 1,000 people feel this way because like so few people write in. But she was like, and also, even if we know that they support us already, they need something to hold up on the floor and be like, my constituents want me to vote this way. So even if you have people there already who represent you, who you're like, oh, they agree with me already, that feedback is really important. And I was like, oh, interesting. and fast forward so much longer into the future, I first got involved in local, I wouldn't even call it politics, but I went to my first city council meeting in Portsmouth when I lived there. I was working as a barista downtown and parked every day at the municipal lot, which was free. And I got this flyer on my car one day that was like, they're gonna put meters in and charge people to start parking here. And I was like, oh my gosh, there goes all my tip money. And they were like, come to this city council meeting and speak up. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta Google everything and figure out what this is. And I probably over-prepared and showed up at this meeting and just like listened to person after person express their opinion, and then watched as people like listened and had conversations based on what they were hearing. And I also discovered there that I'm a huge nerd because I was just fascinated by everything they talked about. You know, there was, I don't know if anybody knows Commercial Alley in downtown Portsmouth. Well, at the time, at that meeting, they were discussing cleaning up an ordinance because they were like, did you know currently you're allowed to drive 35 miles per hour down Commercial Alley, which cars are not supposed to go on? And I was like, what a fun fact. This is awesome. I'm going to tell everyone. So I was just like, wow, this is cool. You can show up and like learn all these things about your community. When I moved to Portsmouth, from Portsmouth to Somersworth at the beginning of 2017, after I had worked on the 2016 presidential campaign, that surprise, surprise did not go the way that the candidate I was supporting wanted it to go. But I moved to Somersworth and, you know, got really involved in the community there. And I'm talking like coffee shop involved, like just knowing people at the coffee shop. And then, you know, we'd talk a little bit about what was going on at the city council level, at the mayor level, and it was just like, we were like, we gotta find someone else to run. And we were looking and trying to convince people who'd been there for a long time to run, and nobody was willing to do it. And I was like, well, I'm willing to do it, but like, that doesn't make any sense. I just moved here. I think at the time I had lived there maybe 2 or 3 years. I'm like, I'm new to the community. Nobody's gonna vote for me.
Just another carpetbagger.
Yeah, exactly. Coming from like all the way across the bridge on the other side. And so finally, like we couldn't find anybody else to do it. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna run. And, you know, like many small towns, it was the same like roster of people that just got reelected over and over because nobody really ever ran against them. So there really wasn't any campaigning that was going on already. So doing any campaigning was amazing. And I won with the most amount of votes, beat everybody else who'd been there for many, many years. And I think it was because I just like asked people to and put it out there and like actually did some campaigning, created a Facebook page. But yeah, once you get there and you realize how things work, I then turned into, from someone who was always like writing in, to being like, will you please send us an email? Like, will you please like look at the agenda and like give us any opinion? Because if we don't hear from people, we don't know what the community wants, and that's why we're there.
You two are so cool. I just want, like, can we just acknowledge how cool these two are?
It doesn't pay very well. So you know.
Oh my gosh. So
I don't know. I
wanted
get
to-
$81 a month.
Whoa!
Whoa! Do you make more as a Somersworth city councilor?
I make $100 a
10
year.
times what Billie makes in the state legislature because I get paid $1,000 a year.
John Kuiper's writing notes back there. This is good.
Is John here? John, will you please do something about this? Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Well,
I'm really pissed off right now. I'm just gonna say.
I'm
I'm
gonna
for city council.
I'm going to hand it back to Emily in a second. I just wanted to plug, we've got a couple seats out front. I'm very stressed about making sure anyone who needs a butt on a seat has a seat. There's a few in the front row. There's a few over here. So if you feel uncomfortable, please take a seat. Continue.
No, I was gonna say I don't want to toot my own horn, but a couple months ago when we were talking about what episodes we wanted for January, I was like, what if we talked to Billie Butler and Crystal Paradis-Catanzaro about like the cool things happening in Somersworth? And Marissa, ear to the ground, knows everything, right? You're mostly here because of Marissa, right? She goes, what's happening in Somersworth?
I had no clue.
I was like, oh my God, let me tell you. I was like, there's a revolution going on in Somersworth. And so Crystal and Billie are going to come and they're going to tell us. So we would love to hear, for anybody here that doesn't know what a huge flip Somersworth has done in really a short span of time. Can you tell us a little bit more about what happened and what that looks like?
Well, I can say that we're glad that you don't know what's happening in Somersworth. We like our little community, but I'm kidding.
Sorry, then I had to put you on my stupid podcast,
No,
and now
no, no,
everyone's
no.
gonna know.
I shouldn't have said anything, guys. I'm gonna like overthink this all night. I'm just gonna go.
Getting
I,
roused
I,
is not like-
I kind of approach things a little more poetically, and I feel like we moved to Somersworth because we couldn't afford to buy a home anywhere else. We bought our house there in 2019 before the world went completely insane and before COVID, and we were able to buy a home, like a working class home with a working class mortgage. My mortgage now is ridiculously low compared to what rents are. And I feel like, and I don't think it's not a feeling, it's a reality that Somersworth has been and is still very working class. A lot of artists, a lot of my artist friends live there. The guitar player in my band, John McCormick, has been there for a long time. He's a real estate agent. He sold us our house. He lives right down the street from me. I have artist friends that live right across the street from me. And it is the queerest city in New Hampshire. Yeah, right? With 11,000 people and a really large immigrant population. I hesitate to talk more about it because the world is fucked right now. But it was founded by immigrants, Irish immigrants, who were also hated when they came to this country. And I think that mentality is still kind of left over there because there was a time period when pretty much anyone could afford to live in Somersworth. And it's still kind of that way in this dumpster fire of an economy we're in. And it's small enough, it was 11,000 people, right? It's small enough where we actually know our neighbors. We know our representatives. We know our city council. And we know all the businesses downtown. I know when I go downtown, they all know my name. You know, and it's not because I'm a state rep. They knew it before because I introduced myself, and you go there enough because it's a small enough town. I feel like it's really representative of New Hampshire. You know, New Hampshire is 1.4 million people. You know, I lived in Brooklyn. there's how many million living in Brooklyn? What was it? Somebody, no, I thought somebody said that. It's like 3 million, 4 million people live in Brooklyn. Yeah. That it's, you know, I think Crystal could probably tell you more demographically maybe of why our little city is so cool. But I think the 10 square miles, 11,000 people, it kind of creates community without even trying. You know, we still have our batshit hateful people. I mean, every family has one, right? There's two in mine. But Crystal, I don't know, what can you add to that? I'm sure.
Yeah, I actually heard about the revolution in Somersworth before I moved there, and I kind of didn't remember until I moved back.
Oh, right.
But there was, on the cover of some local paper that I'm sure doesn't exist anymore, but there was I think a local magazine version of a newspaper that was, that had some people who are now some of my closest friends, Emmett Soldati, Maddie DeSantis, Paul Goodwin. There was like 4 or 5 people that had all graduated from Somersworth High School, and they had all moved back after going far, far away and to Harvard and to London School of Economics and to MIT and all these places, and they all moved back to Somersworth, and one of them started a restaurant, and another one was working on campaigns, and so I remember hearing about it, but then when I moved there, and like I said, I found my coffee shop community. That was like the most important thing to me. 8 minutes walking distance from my house was Teetotaler. And if anyone in here has heard of Teetotaler, then you know that it's a very loud and proud queer establishment. Emmett Soldati, again, had really raised, as he calls it, raised the flag on queerness in Somersworth, and you know, to hear him tell it, expected a lot more backlash than there was. There was a very spicy billboard up a number of years ago, and on Facebook, it generated quite a lot of controversy. But in person, he said nearly every in-person person that he saw, obviously, who would come into the place, people would just show up and be like, I'm here because of the billboard, like, you rock, this is awesome. He had people calling him from like other states that were like, I read about this in the Huffington Post and go you. And so, you know, people are brave behind their keyboards, but when he would just get like louder and louder and like everybody else would too, and there just was like no pushback, it was like, oh, this is a very accepting community. When like I said, when I ran for city council, there was one other woman. I was by far the youngest. I got elected at the same time to the city council as Matt Girding, who was younger than me, but the two of us together like way pulled the average age down of the council. And now I just started my third term, and there's now 4 women, and there's, you know, probably half of the council now is like closer to my age than some of the retired folks that serve on there. And it's just it's like once you see it, you know you can be it, and then more people do it because they realize that it's something that a regular person could do. I'm wicked excited that last year we finally got a crosswalk on like across High Street in the one place where everybody always wanted one, and it was the one corner that didn't have a crosswalk for like a ridiculous grandparented in reason of an excuse that we finally were like, this is so stupid, somebody's gonna get hit there. And so we put a crosswalk in, and let me tell you, that was many, many years in the making, and it's like, I'm so excited about it. So revolutions like that are happening in Somersworth.
I think what happened with that crosswalk, too, is a great example of how Somersworth has evolved. Because usually it's just High Street is a high-speed street. So we're just driving through Somersworth to get to Berwick. Or driving from Berwick just to get to Dover or to the highway. And now we have these great new shops that have moved in. You know, Teetotalers moved out, but now we have Bonfire, another queer-owned business. Bonfire Coffee. It's right across the street from where Teetotaler used to be. That's now a non-profit breakfast lunch place run by SOS.
We had them on 2 months ago.
It's
Yeah,
incredible
listen
what
to
they're
that
doing
episode.
there.
It's great.
It blows my mind because you don't have to pay the 8% food and beverage tax because it's a non-profit. So not only are you supporting a nonprofit organization that is helping people in recovery, but you're also paying a little lower price in food. And it's run by Mark. Mark's in the kitchen. My old friend Dave Porter, an old Portsmouth dude, they run the kitchen in there. It's really, really cool to see that kind of thing. I've never seen anything like it. Not like this, you know. It feels like a very independently owned business. But SOS is a small nonprofit, and it's really incredible because they're not about the bottom line. Right. You know, they're about the experience and changing lives and, you know, making some pretty good eggs, you know?
I think it's so interesting hearing you guys all talk about how all these different pieces came together in a way, and different people kind of stood up, right? Emmett sort of stood up and was proudly himself and showed the way for other people, and it made more space for others to do the same. And I think it's such an important reminder to all of us in our daily lives that like just showing up can be enough. You have no idea the ripple effects you're gonna cause by just showing up. So.
Absolutely. And, you know, that reminds me, talking about like Mark Siegel's like a big deal restaurant person, and now he's like, he views his job now as training the next generation of like awesome, stellar, like people that want to work in the kitchen, people that are really passionate about the culinary arts. And it's like, it's so contagious. Like courage is contagious. He showed up there because he was like, I'm at a point in my career where I want to give back. And so that's how we get someone of that caliber doing that. We just got a new city manager who I can't shut up about because he's so cool.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
He came because he saw there's people in Somersworth who like really want to do cool things. And he was at a point in his career where like he'd gotten a bunch of experience, but he really wanted to put that to work for a community where it would make a difference. And so he did.
You know, and riffing on this still, downtown, right in the middle of town, it reminds me of, you know, I lived in New York City, and right in the middle of the city are low-income housing. And they did that on purpose because they wanted kids and folks to, that were lower income and higher income to live together and not separated, right? And that's what Somersworth has right downtown, right in the middle of town. You can't miss it. They can walk. Literally, there's low-income housing steps away from City Hall. And that's unheard of. I don't know of any other place aside from New York City that has done that. They can walk to all these different places. There used to be a grocery store. It'd be great to bring another grocery store back downtown. Just a small one, you know? But they're not trying to shove people out. And I think that because Somersworth is so small, the 10 square miles, where are you going to put them? Oh, put them right in the middle of town, right where they can get on a bus, where they can walk right over the border into Maine. It's not a lot happening there. Though Berwick's kind of another up-and-coming city. Yeah. But having that right downtown is, I don't know, I saw that when I moved there. And not when I moved there, but when we were looking, I was like, this is cool. Like, this is different. We need to live here. Yeah. And I can literally walk to them. I can walk to, I'm 8-minute walk to Bonfire now. I'm like 8-minute walk from your house. Yeah. And it's funny, when Crystal ran, I had her signs on my lawn. And then when I ran, I drove by her house and I saw my sign. I was just like, oh man, thanks, Crystal.
Beautiful
it was cool. Yeah.
Thanks, Billie.
Yeah, man.
So you had said that Emmett had already raised the flag on queerness in Somersworth. And Crystal, your campaign was earlier than Billie's. Did you have any hesitation running as an openly queer person? And then I'd like to ask you as an openly trans person in an area, you know, despite that somebody had raised the flag, like how were you feeling doing that?
Yeah, I had to think about this question because I don't really remember feeling like worried about it, but I also didn't spotlight it like super
I don't
lot,
remember.
I was like,
you
I
ever
remember,
talking about it,
yeah, like I just knew it was a very working collar town, but working collar Democrat, like a pretty blue town, pretty consistently voting Democratic, but very working, you know, working class, blue collar. And my platform was get the city's first dog park, which, hooray, we did it.
Which you did.
Support the world's first Little Indonesia, which is, it's not, we don't have like the permanent business space for it yet, but Indonesian Community Connect is a very awesome, thriving nonprofit, and they do a lot of pop-up events, and the Indonesian Festival happens there every year. And so, you know, talking about like sidewalks and crosswalks and things like that is really what people cared about. And I didn't find that they cared as much about like my biography. Yeah.
I didn't run as an openly trans person. The GOP outed me. I hadn't come out to my family. I had come out to some people that were close to me. My partner, my daughter. It's funny, I haven't talked about this much, but it was, I knew it was coming, but I wasn't quite ready for it. But Lindsay was ready for it and had my back, and so was my community, and so was Somersworth. Somersworth didn't give a fuck. And you know, it only solidified who I am, you know, because I don't identify as a trans person. I just am. This is who I am, you know. I identify as an artist. I identify as a friend and a lover and so many other things. I just happen to be trans, you know. They brought it up, and they put out some pretty amazing things. They built a website. BillieButler.com. And they got the IE right. They got my spelling right. And I remember seeing it and just like laughing. And I sent it to people, and people were like, did you create this? Because this like puts you in a positive light. Do they know? And I was like, I don't fucking know, man, but I don't have to pay for anything. And we raised, I don't know, like $6,000 on that, something like that, in a matter of weeks. It was very fast. Our campaign was a total of like 6-8 weeks. And we raised enough money off that website. I had Republican neighbors coming over, knocking on my door, Billie, you gotta see this, and showing me the flyers that they had sent out. And it was horrendous. It was saying awful things. My stuff was like about love and lower taxes and community and all of that. And it was brightly colored and fun. And theirs is just like doom and gloom. I'm gonna chop off children's genitals and turn everyone queer. Like, I'm like, what planet are you guys living on? I had a libertarian reach out to me. Free stater. I have never voted for a Democrat in my life, but I'm going to vote for you because you're a good person, and what they're doing is bullshit. And that right there told me, it told me what kind of community I was in and the type of community that I built around myself, And even now, like, I don't know, I walk into the State House. I've only been in session twice. I feel powerful. I feel like they gave me power that I wasn't asking for. I just want to represent my community. I wanted to do something because nobody was going to run. They didn't have anybody to run. And I had been threatening. And it was funny because, like, before, you would ask me in 2024 in June, and I wasn't a registered Democrat. I've been undeclared for a long time. The largest voting bloc in New Hampshire is undeclared. And it's not a legitimate party, thank God. And I think that might have helped me a little bit in that. But I think I really think that it kind of empowered me even more because I think back to those days. Hi, Marcy. Marcy, the chair of the Democrats, is here. She also helped me get elected.
Yay, Marcy!
Hardcore, badass bitch. I really do think that it gave me the power to really see this through. I was not even a year into medically transitioning, and I just started at New Hampshire outright. It was just kind of a whirlwind. It was like, okay, white-knuckled, going down on the scariest part of the roller coaster, but like, woohoo! It was really a powerful turning point in my life, and I'm really glad it happened. I'm really glad they did that. Yeah.
That's really incredible, honestly, and I think to see you thrown into this position, like you were saying, you were elected this summer in a special election. This was all very new. This all happened very fast. I want to ask you both about how the climate that we're living in right now is impacting the work. I'm curious, Crystal, I'll come to you in a second. I want to hear kind of about your journey. But like Billie, while we're kind of on this topic, you and I talked a little bit about the Free Staters. You mentioned that as well here. Talk to me a little bit about your first couple of weeks on the job. This is a really chaotic moment to be walking into the State House for the first time. How has that experience been for you?
I have to say that when I was sworn in, usually they swear in 400 reps at once. It was just me and Kelly Ayotte.
Not great.
It was so great. And it just happened to be on my Traniversary.
Oh, God.
Right? They asked me, like, what dates are you available? I was like, oh, fucking August 13th. We're doing it August 13th. I'm sitting there in the back. It started at 10 a.m. That just happens to be when I have to take the first medication of the day. So I'm sitting there surrounded by, I don't know, politicians, I guess they are. Is that what they call them? I took my meds right there. It was, what a revolutionary way to start.
That's fucking awesome.
Right? It felt so right. It felt so like, holy shit, this is supposed to be happening, But most of the beginning of it was really just, had some meetings and some delegation meetings. county stuff. It hasn't been all that challenging. The real challenge is me keeping my mouth shut.
I hear a lot of state reps having issues with that, but I don't blame them this time around.
Yeah. I have a hard time not rolling my eyes at committee meetings. There's no rule about that. So I roll my eyes really fucking hard and let them know, you sound like an idiot. And I do it to both parties. Because it's like, dude, shut up. I want to go eat lunch. What you're going to say is not going to make any difference. Everybody's already chosen what they're going to do, but everybody else has to grandstand. It's just something I don't do. I can bullshit, I can talk, I can make funnies, but the reality is it's hard to sit there and keep my mouth shut. When they get up there, the 2 days, I was there for veto day in December, which is they go over things that the governor had vetoed that year to try to put it back on the table again. But my first 2 days was a 10-hour session day. It was basically 12 hours. In the theater, we call it a 10 out of 12, right? So you do a 12-hour day, but you get an hour for lunch and an hour for dinner. And there were some really abhorrent bills. The very next day, I think it was January 5th and 6th, was another long 8-hour day, and that was the bathroom bill day. And I stood up in the back and made my presence known. Because I feel like there isn't a lot I can do as a representative to vote, because we already know where the votes are going to go 99% of the time. But there's 4 trans people, 1% of the state house is trans. There's 4 of us. We have a caucus. Yeah, right? Hi, Gene. I feel like our presence, and I think that my age and my punk rockness and my fearlessness, standing in the back, my arms folded like I was like an elder punk at a punk show, standing in the back. You know what I'm talking about, right? Right? And I think that makes a difference, And I think that's what I can bring to the table. Right?
I love that. This is why everybody loves Billie Butler,
Oh,
right? That's
stop
the
it.
energy. That's the energy everyone
It's
fucking
gotten me into
loves.
so much fucking trouble, Marissa. Kept me out of the really good schools.
Now,
I want that lawn sign. Everybody loves Billie Butler. Yeah, right. Vote, reelect.
No, not everybody. The Free Staters don't.
yeah. I want to hear a little bit from Crystal on this topic too. How is your job now as a city councilor? Is it heavily impacted by kind of everything else that we're seeing happening right now? It's a very big question. Take it however you would like.
It's a really big question because every human is impacted by what's going on right now. If you're a human being, you're impacted by what's happening. It is really hard. I started my very first term at the beginning of 2020. So, January, February were great. All of a sudden the pandemic hit in March, and it was like, I thought I was going to I'm going to spend my first term or 2, like my first several years, just like learning how things work. And then all of a sudden COVID hit, and it's like, oh, nobody knows how this works, actually. Suddenly I feel like I'm on equal playing field, and I know how the internet works, and I already knew what Zoom was. So I was like way, way ahead of it. But there have been a lot of really hard things that have happened since then, since the beginning of 2020. And so I've gotten to see through a few different iterations of council how it does or doesn't come up in council. And for the most part, as a municipal government, at least in Somersworth, it's nonpartisan. So people don't run with an R or a D next to their name, and party stuff doesn't come up. But you can kind of tell where people are by, usually it's the closing comments. Those are the really long ones. And sometimes people raise issues that you're like, where did you even hear that? There's probably only one channel that you're watching. And so, a lot of times people will just be like, keep the politics out of it. But it really does get, like, just into you if you're a human. And I love our mayor, Matt Garding. He just started his second term as mayor. And I have been so, so proud of a lot of the things that he has done as mayor. He's given some mayor reports that have, like, brought me to tears because, he's not the first openly gay mayor, but he's the only one right now. There has been one, I think only one previous, and it was the person that he, that was our mayor right before then. But he, he's a young guy, he's married, he's gay, he is very open about...
He's a teacher.
He's a teacher, he's a middle school science teacher. I mean, so cool.
Wholesome. He's handsome
So
too.
hot.
It's rude. So rude. Billie and I are at the
But
same
our
place.
inauguration, it was like, he said this very sweet, to my husband, I love you so much. And I was like sitting up there just being like, I just love that this can happen here. So when it comes to what's happening right now, and I feel like it has been so much turned up just the last week. I don't know yet what our next council meeting is going to look like. But when SNAP got defunded, our mayor got...
That was not me.
Sorry,
Crystal.
I was looking at you because I knew you remember.
Yes,
Remember?
okay, all right.
Remember how
Yes,
you
it
had
was
nothing
me.
to do
I
with
cut
it?
Snap.
Canceled.
You all know. No, when that happened and there was a shutdown, our mayor got together with our city manager and they redirected a line item of something that was not essential and gave that immediately to the food pantry. And, we used part of our council time to talk about that, to tell people where they could donate, to tell people, where they could bring food and just how to support their neighbors. So I think it's hard when where you sit isn't super connected because you don't have, like, we couldn't actually do something about what was happening in Washington, D.C., but everything you do affects people locally, and it affects them a lot more. Like, a lot more, I don't even know if that's true anymore right now, but for the most part, a lot of the things that happen on the national level don't filter down to people's day-to-day, whereas something like a crosswalk does. So I think, number one, it makes a lot of impact to do things on the local level, and number two, just showing up. Like you said, it makes a really big difference. And, I've been able to, in a meeting, sort of counteract unknowingly perhaps hateful language that has been spoken. And I will say, when it's my turn to speak the next time, FYI, blah, blah, blah is not true. And we see people, just so that people know if they're watching online, even if nobody is there, like, not everybody here is condoning what's happening up here. So just showing up, being yourself, being a human.
I didn't answer the Free Stater thing.
I was going to circle back. Don't worry.
Yeah, all right,
Get to
good.
it. Let's get into it in a minute. Let's talk a little bit.
I need to be managed.
That's okay. I can do that. I'm happy to. So I will give us a little background on the Free Stater before you launch into.
I don't know a hell of a lot. I do know a bunch, but I don't know. I know that it started as the Freetown Project, and they started in Maine and were chased out of Maine. Thanks, Maine. They came to New Hampshire, Grafton, I think it is.
Yep.
You can look it up. It's you look up Grafton, New Hampshire, Freetown, pedophiles, and bears. I mean, yeah, it's funny, but it's not, because what exactly happened was basically they just got rid of all the laws in Grafton, and everything started falling apart. They had it's the bear thing that I think is hilarious, because nobody was taking care of the garbage. So the bears just kind of started invading Grafton.
This is not a joke. This is very serious New Hampshire news that happened in real life.
I mean,
town was invaded by bears because the Free State eliminated all of the
Yes.
programs, including the trash.
And criminals and pedophiles.
And pedophiles. Yeah, sorry.
Now, I'm not talking about bears, the ones that we like. Though I like the other bears too, but for real, like it was an example. You think that these Free State people would have been like, oh shit, maybe we should rethink this, you know? But they didn't. And eventually the town reclaimed its town and kind of got back to whatever normal is. But they turned into the Free State movement. And they call themselves libertarians. They're not libertarians. Libertarians believe in equal rights. Libertarians believe in small government. I believe in small government. Government staying out of our fucking lives. It's written into the Constitution. All of the amendments were created to limit government. That's what the founding fathers wanted. They didn't want a church state. They didn't want a corporate state. They wanted to be left the fuck alone. And these fake libertarians, they're theocrats is what they are. And I hate to use the word fascist, but that's where we are. They're fascists. You know, and it's not a broad term. Fascism is not a broad term. They want to control what you do. They want you to be like them. So much so that they will force you to be like them. That's why they're passing bathroom bans. That's why they're passing book bans. That's why they want to eliminate gay marriage. That's why they want to get rid of abortion. And I don't know if they actually believe in this shit, because I met some of them, and they're just like bros, most of them. And I really feel like it's this weird, like, owning the libs ideology. You know, oh, look what we did to them. Well, you're fucking yourself over, too, because eventually they're going to come for your guns. It's the leopard eating their own face, you know? Eventually, it's going to fuck themselves over. They have infiltrated our state. It's an insurgency. 6,500 of them. I'm ranting, I'm loving it. You guys are totally on it.
This is important,
with
so
you.
I'll allow
Yeah.
it. Keep you.
6,500 of them moved here. They wanted to move like 10,000, 20,000 here, but they got 6,500. They paid them to come here. They live in these compounds. Like, David Koresh, anyone? You know? And I have my issues with the ATF and what they did in Waco, but it's that culty. I do. I do. I think what happened in Waco was horrendous and an overreach and an overstep of the government. And these people are able to take things like the Second Amendment or other things that a tyrannical government and kind of built a truth around it that doesn't exist, right? It's kind of what our federal government is now. These people in this state, what's happening in this state is the same thing that's happening in Minnesota. It's a testing ground for the people at the highest level in this country to see what they can get away with. New Hampshire's been doing it kind of passive-aggressively. What's been happening in Minnesota is not passive at all. It is an overstep. The Constitution is thrown out. You know, we all in this room, I'm sure, agree with the Constitution. And I bet you everyone in this room is a New Hampshire Yankee. You know, we believe. I grew up in New Hampshire. I'm a carpetbagger. I moved here when I was 4.
Boo.
Right? I believe that we all agree that leave me the fuck alone. I'll leave you the fuck alone. But if you need my help, let me know. Right? You need my ladder. You need to use my lawnmower. You don't have any food. I got you. I'll drop off a bag of groceries. We just did this in Somersworth last week. The immigrants that are afraid to leave their homes. Marcy kind of led the troops on that and gathered a bunch of people together last minute to get groceries out to them. That's what a Yankee does. That's what an American does, right? But these people, like, I don't understand it. It is not Christ-like. And it's not American. And the best thing we can do, and I think my election kind of brought a little bit more of the Free State to the main conversation, is to shine a light. Sunlight will disinfect these fuckers.
Absolutely.
End of rant.
No, I love it. You did a nice job. You made the transition for us anyway to the next question.
You really did. But you also really validated everybody's feelings in this room, so thank you for that as well. So we wanted to kind of bring it around and talk about some of the common sense issues, the working class issues that are affecting the community that have sort of given you hope about bridging that gap that you've experienced lately. Have either of you experienced anything
Well,
like that?
to further bridge the conversation, what gives me hope about the Free Staters and is why they chose to come to New Hampshire, and it's because our government's the easiest one to get into. Take notes, everyone. It's the easiest one to get into. Like, the bar is very low, and I'm not saying that as like a slight on something as somebody, but in some states, you have to pay a lot of money to file. And in New Hampshire, you don't. I have to pay like $5 to file for city council. I don't know what your filing fee is, but it's under $100 for sure.
I don't remember
even to
paying
file
anything.
Yeah, maybe you don't.
No, I don't think so.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Some places you do. So it's very, very easy. And a lot of the districts, because there are so many state reps, the districts are very small, and it's easy enough and approachable enough and reasonable enough to kind of knock on every door in your district and meet everyone. So it's very easy for somebody who's passionate and loves their community. That's literally the only qualification. You can get elected. Another thing that gives me hope, obviously the crosswalk, very exciting. But
I use it all the time.
yeah, it's great. You push a button and they start flashing, and then people slow down who used to just like come barreling at you, mostly. You still have to look, people. You still have to look. But another really encouraging and exciting thing that happened recently was in response to a tragedy, something terrible, as unfortunately sometimes these things are. But there is a road nearby, Old Dover Road, Old Rochester Road, and there was a terrible accident, and unfortunately, someone lost their life on that road. It was, yeah.
Two
there
separate,
was-
a guy and his
yeah,
dog,
there
and then
was-
months before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's really tragic. And that particular area of the road, not a lot of lights. The speed limit changes a couple of times. And then also at that end of the road, it's kind of nearing a highway. So people just do fly down that road. And some folks showed up to the city council meeting after this happened in their neighborhood. And it was just two women. And one of them spoke, and they just both walked up to the microphone, and the other one was just there for support. And this woman spoke, and she just essentially was like, I've never been to a city council meeting before, but this just happened in our neighborhood, and it's awful, and we're all trying to process it, and is there anything we can do to make this road safer? We need more lights. There need to be better signs about the speed limit changing. You know, this person was very safety conscious, and it was during the day and all of these things, and this accident still happened. And so we discussed it as a council. It was like one of the bigger topics of discussion by the end of the meeting because they were the only ones that showed up and brought up an issue. And of course, it was a very important issue. It was a state road. So in councils past and in years past, a lot of times people would just be like, well, it's a state road, nothing we could do. Like, but guess what? Like, we know who the state is. We can talk to them. And so, again, amazing. Yes. Talk to our representatives, talk to the DOT. So our new city manager and our Department of Public Works director called up the state and met with some New Hampshire DOT folks and some other representatives, and they went down there and they looked and they were like, oh yeah, look at that. There's a bunch of poles that we could probably attach lights to without even adding a new pole. You know, and they came up with this punch list of things, including adding more signs, adding more lights, and all of this happened without what I was hoping would happen is that, you know, like we'll form a subcommittee and like we'll start to force the people to do something. And it wasn't necessary because people showed up, they said what their concern was, and so the staff in the city was able to just kind of be empowered to go and do something that for many years people just kind of thrown up their hands around.
That's such a cool way to see positive change come from something really tragic.
I got a lot of emails in my rep account about this. It was really moving because people were neighbors. Somebody I didn't know, but like this one guy was like, this guy was my neighbor, and I loved his dog, and they were I walked up as they were hit by the car. Something needs to be done. This is the second person that was killed on this road. It's sad that it takes a tragedy like that to fix things, because we all know, we all drive these roads. We all know what assholes people are driving. And today I was in Portsmouth driving to work on this back road that people used to fly down this road, and now they have those little like platforms. Little things like that make all the difference in the world.
It's huge. I want to follow up on the question we had just asked Crystal with you specifically, Billie. I think one part of our conversation, and one of the things I think people resonate with you specifically so much, is that you do speak in a way that is not super tied to party politics. And I think that that's very powerful in this moment, and that's very powerful in the state of New Hampshire. Can you talk a little bit about that and about kind of that experience, maybe knocking on doors that you know are Republican neighbors, but kind of being able to break through to those people? I think that there's some real power in that.
We didn't knock on any Republican doors during my campaign.
That's fair.
Right. Well, it's a special election, right? We didn't have time to go bipartisan. There was no time. There was talk of that, but I drove the conversation to no, we need to knock on friendly doors and let people know there's an election happening, because 2% came out to vote.
That's brutal.
Right. So
That's
I'm
hard
not,
to hear.
and I knew it was going to be a small vote, so I didn't want to waste my time. Right. I'm going to represent all my neighbors, Republican and Democrat, everyone in between. I like to say that I'm a social libertarian Democrat. And I think that, and I had this conversation last week. People at the State House, people in Washington, politics becomes their entire identity. And they get detached from reality, right? And I see this in the arts, too. People make their art their entire identity. And that's cool, but you're also a little detached from reality. And I like all kinds of things, right? I like politics, and I hate politics. I love my art, and I hate my art. But I have all kinds of things that I'm into. And I think that I come from in the theater, as actors, it's funny, I find myself repeating conversations, and it's good because it means I'm rehearsed, you know? But all these opinions are real and authentic. And in acting, if you don't play the role from an honest place, your audience is not going to buy your performance, right? They're not going to believe that character. They're going to see Billie Butler saying these lines. They're not going to see Hedwig. You're not going to see all the male characters that I played in my life. I played them from an honest place, with truth, with authenticity. And I think people resonate with that. I think, and that can be said for any part of your life. You have to play from an authentic place, or people ain't gonna fucking buy you. Or you can bullshit them. I think that's what Trump does. I invoked the name.
I don't think you're allowed to say that word in here, actually.
I said
think-
thump. I said thump. He comes from an authentic place, a shitty, fascist, dumbass place. But you gotta give him credit where credit's due. People buy it. And what we see is not fake, that's very real. Everyone around him is fake as shit. None of those people like him. None of those people come from an honest place. They all come from a grifting place. They come from a place of bullshit and status. And I think that my authenticity, especially now, because I feel like I'm my person, people buy it, from all sides. And I I've always kind of tried to live by this philosophy, and I think that's why I can talk to pretty much anyone, is to meet people where they are, not where I want them to be. You know, I don't want to force somebody to be at my level or whatever we're talking about. And I think government should be the same way. You can't govern people. You can't force people into being governed. You have to. The government has to meet people where they are. You have to govern people where they are, and hope that they can rise to the occasion. Otherwise, and I think that touches some things in people and it catches them off guard. And I can have a meaningful conversation with somebody that I don't agree with. I want to punch them in the face sometimes, but I'm a pacifist, so I don't do that.
Except for the broken nose.
No, I was punched.
Yeah. Okay.
No, sucker punch too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I'm gonna ask one last question. I'm not gonna open up the mic just because we've had a full chat, and I want to make sure that you guys have time to say hi to all the people that are here. So we're gonna wrap up. We are we're obviously in a moment where we really need to improve civic engagement in general in all of these processes. This is a theme in both of your answers. It's like you're in all of these rooms and constituents are not showing up and they're not participating. They're not showing out to vote. Can you talk a little bit about, like, Crystal, we'll start with you. Like, are you having these conversations with people in your life? What kind of baby steps are you encouraging people to take when it's people who've, like, never been to a city council meeting, never signed in for a bill, never gone to the state house? How have you been kind of encouraging people to start maybe taking baby steps in? Because we all need to start showing the fuck up right now. Like everyone in this room needs to start being in these rooms. So how do we do that when people don't even kind of know where to start? What advice do you have?
Yeah. There is my favorite thing about just being more civically engaged is that it literally can look like anything, and it's going to look different depending on who you are. We were talking about this earlier. Like, we need the people yelling outside the building just as much as we need the people inside the building on the inside with the relationships to listen to the people outside the building. And, you know, we need people to be supporting local businesses. So literally, you're here, you're supporting a local business and you're investing in a local business, and that matters because you're supporting the type of community that you want to see. You know, there are a lot of great ways to get involved specifically with politics, and I'd say at the local level. Most places, and Somersworth is included, do stream their meetings. So you can watch them either live or go and watch them on demand.
They're really exciting.
They're fascinating. If you watch them on demand, you can, like, skip over parts too if it gets boring. But that's how you get comfortable with, okay, what is it going to look like? I don't want to just show up in this room and I don't even know who these people are. Watch a couple of clips of meetings and, like, you'll see, like, oh, that person looks pretty friendly. Maybe I'll email them. That person looks, you know, pretty friendly. I'll show up to the meeting and maybe try to talk to them afterwards. There's, like, little baby steps you can do so that speaking up at a microphone about a specific thing won't then feel so hard. And if you're just, like, not comfortable doing that, or that's not your calling, talking to someone wherever you are matters. And it sounds like such a small thing, but I mean, I remember this moment when I was working in, like, a digital tech marketing world, and, you know, whatever was going on in the outside world didn't feel like it filtered into, like, bleep, blorp, social media, whatever. So there was, like, all this stuff happening. At the time, the heroin epidemic was really, really ramping up, and it suddenly hit someone that was, like, a friend of mine. I was like, oh my God, this is getting closer. And so it was, you know, obviously very upsetting to learn yet another person passed away due to a heroin overdose or an opioid overdose. And I was, you know, let's go to our little 3 o'clock coffee at Starbucks. And my coworker was like, oh, how are you? And just, like, decided that day to actually answer the question. And this was somebody that, like, is very jokey. Like, I never would have pegged them for being able to have a vulnerable conversation. But I was just like, actually, like, I'm kind of upset because, like, this friend of a friend, I just found out, died of an overdose. And he immediately kind of dropped his shtick, and he was like, yeah, like that happened to my cousin too. And we ended up having this really like deep conversation, and it like sparked me to start reaching out to other people, and like I ended up like co-organizing this community conversation at the Music Hall Loft, like in like 48 hours notice, because like you know the right people to call, and it's like, oh yeah, we'll give you a microphone and we'll do this. But I never would have thought that that many people wanted to talk about it or had that reaction if it weren't for just like answering a small question from a coworker vulnerably and honestly, and seeing that like, oh, that matters to you too. So just like talking to people and getting that much outside your comfort zone by talking about something that's like really on your heart can make a really big difference.
Such a good reminder, like to just even opening that door can have big ripple effects. What about you, Billie? Any ways that you are thinking about engaging folks in this process for the first time? About what do you want to tell people in this room maybe who've never participated in any of this kind of action? What advice do you have for people?
I usually say run for something. Because if I can win it, anybody can.
I don't know how true that is, Billie,
No.
but okay.
No.
Being very
It's-
fine, get it's a joke, but
No, it's fucking true, man. You know, come with me to the State House, sit in the gallery, and listen to some of these fucking morons from the House floor. For real. But also, like, vote often. Remind people to vote. People forget. You know, especially like midterms and municipal elections, town referendums. You know, just pay attention. You know, you were saying earlier, the shit happens in Washington doesn't affect your daily life generally. What happens in your state, in this state especially because it's so small, affects your everyday life. We live in a state where municipalities do not have the rule. We live in a Dillon rule state. The state house decides how you're going to live your life. Pay attention to the bills. There's so many bills. I'm having a hard time paying attention because I'm trying to learn and pay attention and be as present as I can. But talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to the people you don't like. You know, find out who your reps are, see what they're doing. The voting record, most of the votes on the House floor are roll call votes, which means you can see who voted for what. I'm going to be calling a roll call in something that's coming up about defunding ICE in New Hampshire, especially in Stratford County. People don't know this. In Stratford County, county jail has had a contract with the government for like 25 years. The shit that's happening is not new. Trump is not the problem. The system's the fucking problem. And we've been not paying attention. You know why we haven't been paying attention? Because we have lives, we have to pay bills, we have to take care of our families. And it's not a matter of you don't care, it's because you're fucking busy, man. And this is how they keep us divided. This is how they take control of our lives. But pay attention as much as you can, and have these hard conversations. You know, it's easy to have a hard conversation. It's hard to be vulnerable, but it's easy to have these conversations. So find out what's going on. There's some badass people in this state right now, and these two right here are two of them. I've been paying attention to you guys. I'm following you. We need more of this. And it doesn't mean you have to do it like every fucking day and all the time. But you know, while you're doom scrolling, why not scroll into New Hampshire Talk? Or why not scroll in to see what's happening at the State House? Because this shit affects your life. It's going to affect what you pay for rent. It's what you're paying for food, for health care, for mortgage. You know, my thing right now is taxes. We need to eliminate property taxes, and we need to find a way for a broad tax or consumption tax or an income. We need to have this conversation. But the problem is, I'm stumping. The problem
This
is
is it. You get one, and
I
then
know.
cut you off.
Broad-based tax.
broad-based tax. But the problem is the Democrats don't want to have this conversation, and the Republicans don't want to have this conversation because it affects their bottom line. Not so much as a state rep, but some of them do because they're very wealthy state reps, and they want to do everything they can to hold on to their cash. But it's on a higher level in the state with the senators and Congress. Like if they could start that conversation and make it happen, you know, we need some radical change in New Hampshire, and one of the ways we can do that is reconfiguring our antiquated and anachronistic government, and try to find a way so we can pay for shit. So
Hell yeah.
that's my stump speech.
Hell yeah. Any
This is
last words,
called
Crystal?
One quick thing, but I have three quick things.
One quick thing.
Whoa.
Three quick things.
What's the name of the podcast? Is there a bell? No.
Do I get a prize for saying it first?
Yes.
So three quick things, and this occurred to me while you were talking. And I heard this advice, and I think it's so exceptionally actionable. Pick one thing that affects you, and pick one issue that affects definitely not you. So you want to do something that like you can show up and speak from personal experience, should you go that route, and one thing that affects somebody that's not like you. And then the third thing is be the person that always brings X. Like if you've got a sound system, you're now the sound system person for all the protests. If you do art, like you now make the flyers for all the protests and the food drives and whatever. Like something that affects you, follow it, and just like try to, it's too hard to keep up with everything. One thing that affects you, one thing that doesn't affect you, and like what's your skill that you bring to this revolution?
One more thing you can do. I want to reinforce that.
More quick thing.
Is
No,
it quick?
I want to
Yeah.
reinforce what Krista just said. Two quick things. Anybody can write a bill. Anyone. You just need to find a sponsor. Somebody like me or another state rep. You can go to any hearing and testify on a bill. Anyone can. If you feel passionate about a bill, look it up. Go to Concord, and you can fill out a little card and give your testimony. That's it.
Amazing. It's perfect. Those now we got our little clips. Those are gonna go on the internet. Nice work. Thanks for
we're on the internet?
Oh yeah, you're already on the internet, and they love you guys.
Oh,
I've
shit.
I
getting
told all
updates.
my secrets. I wasn't told this.
Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank
you for
you.
being so open with us. You give us all a lot to hope for. Give them a round of applause. Thank you guys.
Thank you.